What's up, guys? Welcome to the second episode of the No One Asked podcast. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Brock. We'd first of all like to start off on a positive note and just say thank you to everyone who tuned in to the first episode. We really kicked off on a good note, so we're pretty stoked with the amount of views that decided to follow us and tune in for it. So we thank every one of you who are on board and gave back, plenty of feedback and had a lot of nice things to say about it. So we're pretty stoked.
We are. We're really stoked. But we have to address how many podcasts there are with our name.
A few too many.
When we were brainstorming the podcast name, I thought the No One Asked podcast was good because no one asked for this, so we did it. But it seems like at least 17 other people have thought of that because there's the No One Asked podcast on Spotify, which we also had to take. And then there's a No One Asked podcast on SoundCloud, so I had to change the name there. And it's just so many people. I don't want to get sued. I don't think Brock wants to get sued, so we're working through it. But if we get a civil lawsuit, our 13 followers will surely pay for it.
Yeah, you guys can chip in for that one. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
I think if you're done there, we also just want to make mention, there's been a few people who messaged us about being guests on the podcast. We're super open to that. We think that'd be a really good idea. But firstly, we'd probably just like to become a more established and let the audience get to know us first before we start bringing on other people on. But we're pretty stoked for the idea and we're glad you guys are pretty interested in it.
Yeah, we can't say how awesome it is that people are not only supporting us, but also people want to be on this thing after we've done one episode. So thank you to everyone. And it will happen one day.
Yep.
Like, if we've said it will. We're people of our word. So we'll get you on here one day. It's just we sort of want to establish ourselves first and get this thing running. Because we were planning the schedule and planning this out 10 minutes ago before we started recording. So we're just getting the knack of it and learning it as we go. So we hope you stick around and keep listening to us.
Yep, absolutely. So, after the 2 minutes of introduction that we just wasted, let's get cracking.
Let's start with West Ham.
West Ham
up 5-0 against Man City. Very unexpected result. No one expected West Ham to win, but
no one called it. No one called it at all. The hat trick from Marky Noble just coming clutch.
Yep, all three were penalties. All three red cards for the offences going to Sergio Aguero in the first time ever in football. It was stunning.
An unbelievable performance.
No one tell me that West Ham lost 5-0 on the opening day of the Premier League. Please, for God's sake.
It's certainly expected. That's all I'm going to say. But we'll just run through a couple for those of you who didn't keep up. Just a couple of the key games. We obviously had Liverpool, Man City with huge wins, and also the surprise of Manchester United dominating Chelsea with a 4-0 win. So
how the fuck did they do that?
Well,
excuse my language.
Yeah, no one saw it coming. Obviously Chelsea have got their transfer ban at the moment, so they haven't been able to bring too many people in besides Christian Pulisic, and they're relying on a bunch of young guys. But they've got the young manager in Frankie Lampard who doesn't have all too much experience. So I think it was surprising but not unexpected for a blowout victory.
Yeah, that's true. Does Chelsea have a transfer ban?
Yeah, so they have a transfer ban for, I think it's signing under 18s or getting in talks with them, so on. But the funny thing is Man City have actually come across the same thing this week, but have only, I think it was like a $375,000 fine they got for it. So, yeah, Chelsea fans aren't too happy about that one from what I've seen.
Well, I wouldn't be either. That's ripped off.
Yeah.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, that's a small fee to be paid.
Yeah. Didn't Frank Lampard, didn't he play a bunch of young kids? Or did he have to? Have Chelsea kept selling players or what?
They have sold a few people, but obviously Hazard's gone, but Pulisic was pretty quick to replace that. I think it's just a growth and bringing the youth to the team more than anything. People like Mason Mount, is starting to prove themselves and people are pretty stoked with him. So it was time he started getting some game time. Ruben Loftus-Cheek's the same, but he's injured at the moment. So I think we're going to start to see some young blokes bled into the side, and obviously they're forced in a strike department. They've only got Giroud and then Tammy Abrams, so a lot of young guys are going to be playing, which I think is quite exciting more than anything. I think we're going to start to see a few teams, be relying on their youngsters rather than, spending big money for $100 million players.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Sounds like West Ham. what West Ham needs. I don't know what we need. Like
a defense to start with.
Probably. Is Winston Reid still play? See, I apologize to everyone that's listening to this. I have not properly followed the EPL for like 4 years. So, I hope Winston Reid's still playing. West Ham's just been shit since Payet left. I miss him so much.
All right, before you start crying about it, we need to move on from West Ham, dude. Tears are going to start flowing through soon.
Yeah, I know.
So we thought we'd kick off just, obviously with the opening weekend for the EPL, we wanted to recap a few things, but we're actually going to share some of our predictions. So, what we think for top six and who's potentially going to be going down. So that's our first talking point for this week.
Mm-hmm.
And if you'd like to kick us off, who do you think's getting relegated, Ethan?
Relegated? I've got Southampton at the bottom of the table with Norwich City and then either Newcastle or Aston Villa, one of the two.
Okay. Yep. So I've got Sheffield, Norwich and Newcastle going down. I think, in my eyes, the Premier League's getting stronger. There's a few teams, I think Southampton and Crystal Palace are starting to slip down. Southampton just haven't been able to put a decent team together for a few years now, in all honesty, and they're scraping by each year. And Crystal Palace have a few issues going on, but I think the Premier League's starting to very solidify itself. So I think each year we're probably going to be seeing a few teams falling back down to the Championship. Even Fulham last year, who spent huge money coming in, like the same way Aston Villa have, and still falling back down. I think it's going to be rough. So that's why I've got Norwich and Sheffield going down. I just don't think Norwich are going to be able to play the same football they were against Championship quality teams. And Sheffield, yeah, they had the top defence last year in the Championship, but I just don't think it's going to cut it for them in the Premier League.
Their squad looks really weak. Haven't they got like Phil Jagielka and stuff?
I'm not too sure 100% where he has gone, but yeah, it's not. They haven't made any outstanding signings, but it can be expected to from a team that's recently promoted.
Yeah. I guess the thing with the Premier League and the way, like you said, it's solidifying is like it must just be uninteresting for like these teams to come up, spend big money, and then they go back down the year after, and then they're stuck with players who they thought were going to be playing Premier League that like now don't want to be playing Championship football. So I guess maybe Sheffield just knows it might be a yo-yo team, so it's sort of just tried to keep their squad the same, and if they go down, they're not really dealing with that many implications. I don't know. Yeah,
I think that's definitely probably been Sheffield's way of going about it, which I don't think is the worst thing. Obviously, you need to try and keep up because you're going to be keeping the Premier League money coming in your pockets, but they have a team they're obviously happy with, but we'll just see if it scrapes through for them. And then I've also got Newcastle going down, I think, after Rafa Benitez leaving and, a few signings not going their way. And I just don't think they've got the squad or the managerial quality to stay up. So that's why I've got those three going down.
No, I agree. I agree too. I reckon that's why they're going to go down.
Yep.
Losing Rafa was such a big thing. Like, I wanted him at West Ham for so bad before we got Pellegrini. So he's a high quality boss.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seemed like he was starting to put it together for Newcastle and make a couple good signings, but obviously it's not going that way.
Yeah, which sucks for them because they're such a great club with such great history.
Oh yeah, prestigious club.
In the Premier League, not just like a great club. Like in the Premier League, they have been a great team before. So
yeah, absolutely. So but that's the fun of the Premier League. Teams going up and down. There's nothing you can really do to stop it. So hopefully they find their feet again, but I just don't think it's coming this year.
I don't think it is either.
And how are we looking for top 6?
Ooh. Well, I might do top 7 since
Top
I've got
7?
an interesting,
Yep, I'm happy with that.
team at 7th. And I'll start from 7th till 1st. I've got Chelsea at 7th,
Ooh,
Arsenal at 6th. I've got the Wolves at 5th.
wow.
I got Spurs coming 4th. I got Man United coming 3rd. And then I got Man City or Liverpool coming 1st and 2nd. I think Liverpool's going to win it this year.
You think Liverpool's going to win it?
I mean, they have to. Like, they've had too many chances. It's just, it has to be their time. Surely the football gods give them one chance, one title after all these years.
I think that's a fun streak they've got going on that they can't win one. So I've actually got Man City coming first. Once again, I think they're going to make it 3 in a row. There's too much depth and too much quality in the team. I think Liverpool are really putting it together, but I think after the injury of Alisson, that might hurt them the first game weeks. They might lose a couple clean sheets but they've got a great defense still. Like the defensive line's arguably the best in the Premier League, but Alisson really showed up for him. But yeah, I think they're probably going to finish second again. Unfortunately, I've got Man United coming 4th and Spurs 3rd. I think Spurs have just got the managerial talent over Man United more than anything, and they're a reliable goal scorer in Harry Kane. In 5th, I got Arsenal, 6th Chelsea, and 7th Everton. And I just want to quickly make mention, obviously, you've got Wolves going for 5th, which is huge. I actually think they're probably going to be coming about 8th or 9th. I think Europa League football is really going to harm them, and I don't know if they've got the squad depth to be able to play 3 games a week on certain weeks.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think of that. I'd just like to see an underdog break the top 6.
Yeah, that's fair enough. They've got a good team, and it was good watching them last season really stick it to the top 6, and it was really nice to watch someone from outside the top 6 actually have a chance against them. But yeah, I don't think it's going to come this year. I think there's just too much football for them to play.
Yeah, it is. It just has to get to that point.
Yeah, unfortunately. Is there anything else you wanted to add in that section there, or?
I apologise to any Chelsea fans listening, but if you get smacked 3-0 on the first game day, 4-0 by Man United, you're not going to do well.
Yeah, I think it was the first game of the season, so we'll give them some credit. I think the transfer ban's just going to hurt them a little bit too much to break any further, but I think they'll still keep the top 6 in my eyes anyway.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, so I think onto just a few more recaps from the previous week. The NRL, we're just going to focus on the Raiders and Roosters and Storm and Rabbitohs just as the big games of the week, and which is really going to lead us into the finals period, who's potentially we're going to see in the grand final. Any big insights or anything you got from the weekend?
Well, as a Roosters fan, on Sunday I was actually going for the Raiders.
Wow.
Because I can't stand the Roosters sometimes, particularly on Sunday when they were getting away with shit. I felt that they were getting away with a bit of dirty stuff and a bit of stuff that the refs were letting go because they're the Roosters. So I was backing the Raiders, and I also like underdogs, but I've got a big soft spot for Canberra teams, and I just really hoped that it was just one of those games where Canberra was just in it, but not in it enough to make it a contest the whole thing. So I was just hoping that they'd come back. And, I mean, they eventually did, but the Roosters squad is just too strong.
Yeah.
They've got too many players spread too far across a good squad. It's unfair.
Yeah, you've obviously found a few people like Latrell, but so many key people being brought in. Like Tedesco's the best fullback in the league, in my opinion. And, Cronk is still one of the best halves running around and probably the most experienced and smartest half running around. So you've got a few people in really like down that spine that are just untouchable.
Yeah. And it just makes it unfair. Like, and just when everyone's clicking too, like Angus Crichton started the season a bit iffy, and now he's going good, and then all our reserves that stepped up while Crichton wasn't doing good are turning into something. So it's all just coming to steam towards the final, towards the important end of the season for the Roosters, which is good for finals, but just sucks to see an overpowered team win again. Seems to be a common thing in sport these days.
Yeah, which you expected from them. Obviously, they had a bit of a lull period around Origin time, which you expect, so you can't really blame them for it. But
Yeah.
they're coming back into their own, finding form again. So we'll see how they go in the run to the finals.
We will.
And then the other game, Storm Rabbitohs. Did you manage to catch any of it?
No, I didn't actually. Was that after the... That was after the Raiders-Roosters game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was straight after. So they were playing in Central Coast too, which was a very nice stadium, might I add.
Really?
Yeah, no. They were overlooking some water and they had palm trees at one end of the field, so it was quite nice actually, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I got to watch that game, and I think as much as it was a relatively tight scoreline, I think it showed how much better Storm was than the Rabbitohs overall.
Yeah.
I think, the first 20 minutes, Storm really dominated them, still dominated the Rabbitohs, and it was just all over the park, and they got a nice lead to start off, and I think it hit about just after the 20-minute mark and all the way to half-time. They pretty much didn't touch the ball again. It was just continuous penalties, and I think going into halftime, the penalty count was 10-2 to Rabbitohs. So for the rest of the half, they pretty much didn't touch the ball and still managed to keep the scoreline 12-6, I think it was, but to one try anyway. And then came out the second half, and Kyle Fulsey got his sin bin after taking out the man, and they got a second try after that. But I think the first 10 minutes of the second half, again, it was pretty much just all Rabbitohs having the ball, and Storm pretty much didn't even get a look at it. So I think, in my eyes, there was 30 minutes of Rabbitohs continuously attacking, Storm not having the ball, and, it was kept to that scoreline. I think they got a little bit lucky, Storm on the right edge. I think Vunivalu was coming out of position, and once the centre went down with his broken nose, it really started to fall apart, but they kept in it, and I think after about the 50th minute, 60th minute, Storm came to their own again and just ended up dominating the rest of the game. So I think we really got to see Storm flourish even against a top opposition and be able to keep a top team to relatively low points without the ball. So I think it was just positive outlook for Storm, even though the scoreline kept it quite tight.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. What was the what do you think of the Kafusi sin bin? Because sin bins don't get handed out very much in the league these days. Seems to be on report, and you get a foul talking to and a penalty, but that's it really.
They're starting to become a bit more common, which I think is necessary. Obviously, as a rugby union player, they're a bit more common than rugby league, so I don't mind seeing a card being shown. I think it was probably deserved. I think he definitely looked for the man and took him out, but I'm sure some people would argue that it shouldn't have been, but I was fine. Even as a Storm fan, I'm pretty fine with it being called a card and a sin bin, so I didn't think there was any issues with it. I think the ref made the right call.
That's fair. No, I was surprised that I really thought the Rabbits were going to win that game.
Okay.
I did going into it. I just thought that they would. I thought maybe the Storm. I just think, really, it's just hope that the top teams get knocked down a peg and the ladder gets closer. But Storm are just too clinical. Just been too good for too long. It's just in there. It's in their like DNA now. It's not like a thing that they are. It's just it's in them. Like everyone that comes through that club is just good at everything.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference. I think it's straight down to Craig Bellamy, but that's the difference between the Roosters and the Storm. I think Storm have their glory days of like the best players in the league have disappeared, and they're getting this young talent coming up, and even still this young talent's just dominating. Like we've got a new set of halves in Munster and Croft, and obviously Munster's played for a few years and Croft's getting his experience, but they're doing unreal together, and Cam Smith's still leading the pack, but I think it's just, like you said, it's just Storm too clinical, and with Craig Bellamy at the helm, I think he's arguably going down as probably the greatest coach of all time, but we'll see how the dynasty continues on without Cameron Smith there. But yeah, I think it's very much so. Like in my eyes, if they end up on different sides of the finals, it's just going to be another Roosters Storm grand final. Roosters have too many big names, like you said, and Storm are too clinical to get beat. So I think that's the way the finals is going up, and it's, I think, whoever just is better on the day, whoever wants it more.
Yep. It'll be good to see that again. Oh, God. Sorry. Yeah. No, I'm hoping for another Roosters Storm grand final. That would be sweet.
Yeah.
If that's the way it's going to go, you might as well have the two best teams. Like, don't give me any hope of an underdog win. Just give me the two best teams, and whoever wants it more wins. Otherwise, make sure the Storm and the Roosters don't make their grand final at all. If one of them doesn't, I don't want the other one to make it.
Yeah.
Because it's just going to be whoever they have to play just gets smacked.
It'll be like, 2 years ago when Cowboys made the grand final against Storm, and it was just a huge blowout.
Yeah. And that's disappointing.
Yeah, Cowboys had made this brilliant run. Like every game they went in as the underdogs and just came out on top, and then got to the finals and just didn't happen, and Storm just blew them out. So yeah, you wouldn't want to see that happen again, but you'd like to see someone else in it, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't either. I really don't.
All right, so let's move on to the Australia versus New Zealand game where we left off last week's podcast.
Can we give it up because we just got an underdog win?
Yeah.
Now that's what I call a W. I was so impressed with this game.
Yes, it was good to watch. To finally see us on the upside was very nice, and the biggest win ever against All Blacks is definitely an achievement, but it wasn't without controversy in some people's eyes, in the All Blacks' eyes.
Yeah. I agree that I don't think Scott Barrett wanted to tackle Hooper that high, but the rules these days are that if you make any contact with the head, it pretty much is a red card, regardless of intent or force shown. And I think he had his arm locked by his side. He turned his body. He didn't even, he barely attempted to wrap, and he copped Hooper straight in the back of the head, even if Hooper was going down because of the Coles tackle, which all the Kiwis have called out this week as Hooper dipping into the tackle to get something out of it. I don't know any player who pick and drives on the try line and decides to purposely dive down for something. Either you're trying to beat the man, which I think Hooper was, and just getting pulled down, or you're going low. You're not just ducking down at the last minute to try and get something in the back of your head. So I think it was a red card. It had to have been.
Yep. So for anyone who didn't pay attention to the game, we're obviously talking about the red card that happened just before halftime for Scott Barrett. And yeah, in my opinion, I'm on the same page. I think there was direct contact to the back of the net, and I think Scott Barrett brought in his arm, and it was a blatant shoulder. Like you said, I don't think he meant to hit him where he did. He was coming down in the tackle, and he was already the tackle was already complete. So I think it was unnecessary. It wasn't his intention, but he's locked in the shoulder, and it's hit him directly in the back of the neck. So I think from the ref's perspective, 100% the right call. But, it's a bit unlucky. But I also have to look, it really seemed like that last 5 minutes of that half, they were just targeting Hooper. They went previously, Sevilla had, thrown him into the ground, and Hooper got up and gave him a bit of scuffle and pulled the back of his jersey. Oh, it was nice to see him showing some, confidence against the All Blacks. But yeah, he copped that only a few minutes before, and then the roughness to the back of the neck, the shoulder, it just seemed like there was a huge target on Hooper's back, which, you expect as an Australian captain. But it was a little bit unnecessary against him, I thought. But yeah, it was definitely a red card, and after that point, it was just a blowout from Australia.
Yeah, which was actually, the Hooper thing, I think I went back and watched the game for a second time, and pretty much every single kickoff went to Hooper from the All Blacks. In the first half, at least. I didn't finish off the second half, and I wasn't really paying attention to that properly. But in the first half, pretty much every kick went between where we had our pod set up with a a lock jumping, and then we had Hooper. They put it right in the gap between that for Hooper to run into, and they were obviously targeting Hooper. I figured the All Blacks thought that it would just be the Wallabies of old, where Hooper shows up and he's the only forward that gives a shit.
Yeah.
And then they just annoy him and pester him and put him off his game, and then we have no go forward from the forwards, and then we're just out of it because we're relying on our backs to do something. But, you know, the rest of the forwards actually showed up on Saturday night, and I think that really is what made the difference. Like, there seemed to be, I picked this up from Twitter, but like straight after the haka, all the Wallabies players got into a circle and they were smiling, they were talking. There seemed to be like an energy of like they knew what they wanted to do and they knew they were going to do it regardless of what happened. Like there seems to be a sort of cocky, confident attitude back in this team, one that hasn't been there or one that I haven't really seen since we got whitewashed by England after the world in 2016 after we did what we did in the World Cup and England performed as badly as they did, and then they come out here for a series and beat us in all 3 games. I haven't seen that energy from the Wallabies, and I haven't seen that sort of like, yeah, we know who we are, we know what we want to do. Haven't seen that for a few years, and it was good to see the boys actually, put in a full effort for the 80 minutes. Like everyone put in, and I mean, I think, like you said, the red card obviously did have an effect on the game, and it was a whitewash after, but I don't think the red card was the knockout blow to the Kiwis. I think they still did what they were doing. They were still attacking well. I just think like it was the punch that swayed the beast, and then we just kept our foot on. Because I've seen us get into a situation like that where New Zealand gets a yellow, 10 minutes into the second half or 10 minutes away from the second half, like in the last 10 minutes of the first half, and we just let our foot off the gas, but we kept our foot on the throat, and it showed.
Yeah, like when the red card came, we were already ahead on the scoreboard, which was good to see as was, but yeah, I went to the whitewash afterwards, and I think there was definitely potential for us to still win the game. Obviously, we were ahead, but it would have been a lot tighter. It wouldn't have been a whitewash leading to the biggest victory like it was.
Yeah, exactly.
But a good performance nonetheless. But how do you think this leads into the rest of the Bledisloe series and, potentially into the World Cup? Can we keep this form?
I really don't know. I think tomorrow night dictates whether we can, whether our new attack coach can stipulate the little changes that need to happen to make us unpredictable the next week. Because that seems to be the problem, is the Wallabies will play shit for 3 or 4 games, win 1 game really well, and then we just use that tactic for the next 3 or 4, and because we've used it, everyone can debunk it, and we play like we just get debunked. So whether we can just tinker a little bit like the All Blacks do and just end up with a formula where it's a base formula and then we just keep tinkering it every week so it's not predictable, I reckon that's what we have to wait and see tomorrow night, whether we actually can still keep on top of them. And it'll be a battle in the forwards. I really think that's where we won. Just the defense from the forwards in the game last week, and just the go forward that they got, genuine go forward.
Yep.
I think we have to credit Christian Lealiafano, our fly half, and Nick White for that. Nick White with all his stabs from dummy half or from scrum half, and then Christian not being afraid to actually take the ball in as a hit up option instead of just passing it.
It
adds so much more to our attack and opens up so many more holes for our forwards, because when you do that sort of stuff, a defense has to sit and be alert and wait for something to happen. They can't just go, oh yeah, we've seen this on film. They go 2 passes wide and then it's a forward runner, or they go for this dump off play here. It keeps you on edge, and you actually seen that with the Kiwis. I noticed it when Nick White kept, when I was watching the game, I thought he was jabbing too much, but it kept them scrambling. And the All Blacks, they looked flustered for the first time in a long time, against us anyway. They were scrambling to get back in defense. There was a lot of pushing. They weren't just falling back like robots. It was really good to see that we'd put them under the pump like that. I was really, really happy with that. So, I mean, this is just such a roundabout answer. I'm sorry, but I really think it depends on tomorrow night and how the forwards do.
I think history also says All Blacks come back pretty strong after Australia beats them. So I think, like you said, we need to change it up. We won 1 game. We can't just plan on going on with that same formula every single week. So we need something big for tomorrow night. But All Blacks, I think, are going to be really scary tomorrow night too. The way they've taken the red card on the chin and they're like, yep, it is what it is. I think they're really pumped for this next game, and Australia's going to have a lot to, hold on to. It's going to be a true game of grit, and if we can keep it cool.
I'm keen. I would love to see us win a Bledisloe. I would absolutely love, because we haven't won it since 2002.
No, it's ridiculous.
We've never seen them win it.
Exactly.
Like, we've been alive, but we've never seen them win it.
Yep. So it'd be nice to see it, but we have to manage to go do it in New Zealand, which, they take a lot of...
At Eden Park.
Yeah, exactly, which we haven't done since the 90s.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's early 90s since we beat them at Eden Park, so it's a big ask, but, I think we can do it. Like, there's potential there at least. So it'll be interesting to watch tomorrow night.
It will be. I am keen.
All right, so moving on, quick segue. NFL this week. Obviously, we're still in preseason, so we're not going to go too into detail. We thought this week we'd probably keep it simple, and we will for the preseason, and just focus on a few key players that, are shining for certain teams, because for those of you who don't watch too much NFL or don't really know what to expect from the preseason, it's not a good showing of what a team's capable of. So historically, the Patriots, who are in Super Bowls every year, will go 0-4 in the preseason. Like, they don't play first teams. They don't try and win games. It's give a few people who don't get regular game time some time to play and prove themselves. But a team's performance isn't a good showing of what a team's capable of where they might finish this year. So we thought we'd just keep on a few key players on what we spotted in the last week. And was there anyone in your eyes that shone?
Well, obviously, Christian Wade, the ex-rugby union star, with his one... he got one carry, and he went... How many yards was it? 65?
It was about 70?
Yeah.
Just under 70? Yeah.
It was a really good run, I'm not going to lie.
It was a great run.
He really turned it up and showed the speed that it takes to be in the NFL. And then there was also Valentine Holmes, who looked better last week. I seen on the news just then that he only had 3 carries for 3 yards today for the Jets.
Yeah.
I hate to put it out there, and I don't like being negative, but I just don't think Valentine Holmes has the NFL body, unless he goes to special teams.
Yeah, so I was thinking the same thing. I was obviously going to start off on the Valentine Holmes notes, because the media pumped him up. Last week he had, rushing, he only went, I think it was 6 yards on 3 carries, going negative yards on one of those runs. And then everyone was hyping up on his reception yards, which I think he made over 10 per catch, which is relatively good, but he only got to play 1 quarter, so we're hoping for more game time for him. But that's pretty standard too, so it's nothing special, and it wasn't anything close to what the media blew it out to be.
No, it wasn't.
And then I wanted to relate that to the Christian Wade situation where, he had his 1 carry and went 70 yards. Like, that is what we'd like to be seeing from Valentine Holmes, but he's, like you said, I just don't think he's capable. And I was talking to someone today about it, and he's definitely not making the NFL this year.
No,
in my opinion. Even Ty Montgomery was there, and that's the backup running back at New York Jets, and he played a relatively good game, so he doesn't even have a chance at a backup. 3rd string, I still don't think he's even getting there. So I think he's still obviously got his contract for the rest of the year, and they'll think about what they'll do next, and he very well may get another opportunity next year. And you have to remember, this is the first year in NFL, so we can't expect huge things from him like a lot of the Australian media is expecting. So I think we'll obviously watch the next 2 games. I think he'll get some more game time, but we were asking for that last week, and then this week he had 3 carries and 3 yards from it, which, for anyone who doesn't know, is horrendous. So, hope for big things next week, but I just don't think it's going to come this year. But I hope I eat my own words with that.
Yeah, me too. I really want him to do well. I can't see it happening. It's just... I think the same reason that he got his opportunity is the same reason that's hurting him the most, and that is the fact that the NFL now has an extra spot on practice squads for international players. It's like a free slot to run. So previously, Brock actually told me about this when Valentine Holmes signed, it's you get your roster of 53, I think, and then you get a 9-man practice squad.
10 men.
10 men. And then now they've added this additional spot for international players that you can have them for free. Is it off the books or is it just an extra player for free?
No, it's just an extra player for free, and the contracts are relatively cheap. But then again, the contract looks really good compared to Australian sports. But I think the only teams that were offered it were the Pats, Jets, Bills, and Dolphins.
Oh, that's right. It was like, yeah, was it just that division?
Yeah, it's just that division.
By division, yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's what it is, the year by division, but it was just the AFC East that got the privilege to this. So, in my eyes, I don't think he'd even be in the practice squad if it wasn't for this program, which is good for the program, but not necessarily good long-term for Valentine Holmes. But, like I said, I think in my eyes, I think he should stay there. Like, I want him to stay there for a few years and continue to try and make it, not try for a year like Jared Hayne and then drop it for another spot. Like, I don't want to see him come home yet. I want to see him keep giving this a crack, give it his all, and hopefully make it soon enough.
Because he's got 2 or 3 years on Jared Hayne, doesn't he? Like, in terms of when he started, like, he's 2 or 3 years younger than Jared Hayne was, isn't he?
I think he's even younger than that.
He's 24 or 25.
Yeah, I think Jared Hayne, was he late 20s when he did it?
He had to have been, because he come back to the Titans when he was 30 or something. 30. So. And
what he did is Fiji stint in the middle of that. So I reckon he must have been 28 when he went over and then... But yeah, he's definitely got an advantage. He's still got time on his side. And I think, like you said, when he left, he had already accomplished everything he could. He'd won a premiership. He'd won, games with Australia. Like, he had his Australia caps. He'd won Origin. Like, he'd already done everything that was available to him.
Yeah.
So I don't see why not. And he can come back in a few years, and I think any team would be lucky to have him. So
yeah, I just think it's his. I think body wise, he just you can't make someone relatively quicker, like elite NFL quick, because that's the thing that's going to make Christian Wade so appealing to the Bills, is he's quick by NFL standards. Like, I think Valentine Holmes is quick by NRL standards, but he's just quick enough to make the cut in the NFL. So,
he's caught in a very middle ground. So normally a running back, which is his position, will not normally be about 10 kilos heavier and his speed or just slower than him, or 10 kilos lighter and have like 0.1 seconds over a 40-yard dash on him. So he's caught in a very middle ground area that he's just in the wrong position in my eyes. And, that's been one. I don't know if Ethan necessarily agrees with me, but I think he's in the wrong position. He should actually be playing defense and should be playing cornerback. Like, we saw him in the league, how dominant he was reading the plays, and that's going to take time in the NFL. But we've seen how good his hands are and how quick he is.
Yeah.
I think he should be on defense trying to read plays there and, making big things happen there. But that's my opinion, and that's a bit of a hot take, and I haven't seen anyone necessarily agree with me on that.
Yeah, I haven't seen anyone actually say that. I did think about that, though. I think, honestly, for rugby union and rugby league, the more transferable positions to the NFL are definitely on defense. I think, offense in the NFL is so based on speed and manipulating the physical advantages that you have or the skill advantages that you have. And like you said, Valentine Holmes is in that middle ground where he's not athletically superior or doesn't jump out of the box as athletically superior. And obviously he doesn't have anywhere near the knowledge that a guy does, so he doesn't have that skill. I think he needs to try to either, I think he should spend the year, hopefully the Jets let him spend the year on the practice squad beefing up, getting NFL bodied up, and then maybe he could look to switch to corner or safety or anything, somewhere where he can throw his weight around.
Yeah, I think that's the best avenue for him, but everyone also wants the glory of being on offense in running back or wide receiver, and I think that's the exact reason why he's not going to get his chance, just because too many people, the best players in the NFL will usually play those positions. They're the biggest, strongest, fastest, most all-round elite athletes. I just don't think he's going to make it there.
No, I don't think he will either, which sucks for him, but I think he should definitely stick it out and keep working. Because even if he doesn't get an NFL contract and he doesn't get the payday that he wants, I'm sure he can make an NRL salary with promotions and stuff for Nike or
Yeah.
whoever's sponsoring him or anything anyway. So I hope he does good.
I think relatively the practice squad money, it's low in NFL standards, but it's almost the same amount of money that he'd be earning in the NRL anyway. So
Wow.
I don't think capital is the issue, like money is the issue there. But was there anyone else that stood out for you? I have one in mind that I've been talking about. Was there anyone else in preseason that you liked?
I was actually surprised by Daniel Jones last week. I haven't seen if the Giants played already today because I had work today, so I haven't been able to really get into it and look at any highlights. But I did see that Daniel Jones went 5 of 5 on his opening drive, and it ended with a touchdown pass that was actually pretty nifty.
Yeah, it was a good drive.
And this is massive for him because this is a guy who the Giants drafted, and the whole fan base, or pretty much everybody, even my brother, who's a pretty loyal fan, he's pretty sit on the fence with a lot of things. He was pretty skeptical about the Giants drafting Daniel Jones. But then like the delusional New York fans do, they come around to it because they've had no hope for a couple of years, so they gradually just learn to deal with it. But I was surprised. I really was. I didn't think he was that sort of guy, but he made, from the highlights, he made what looked like a couple of really good high-pressure throws and went 5 for 5 on his opening drive. And then I think he didn't just plateau after that. I think he ended up having a pretty solid game. So I was really surprised by Daniel Jones.
I think they brought him off shortly after that. I think he only went 6 for 6 in the entire game. So I think he had that one really good drive, which everyone was like, oh, wow, this guy's a lot better than we thought, because including myself, I just didn't think he had the arm. Coming out of college, I thought there were so many better quarterbacks than Daniel Jones, and I think he could have fell to a late first or early second draft, and they took him 6 overall. Like, in my eyes, Dwayne Haskins, who went to the Redskins at 15th, was way better, and he didn't have the great first preseason Dwayne Haskins I'm talking about now.
Yeah.
But this morning, I don't know if you've seen, he had a really good game too, and I think he threw a 45-yard touchdown, and I think he showed he's capable too.
Yeah, the one thing that surprises me about Dwayne Haskins is he seems to be the polar opposite of what a lot of quarterbacks are now. Like, I seen that 45-yard touchdown pass that he threw, and there was so much pressure coming into the pocket to get him, and he just stayed there and threw the laser and took hits. It's an opposite of where the NFL QBs are sort of going, where they're happy to roll out and not get touched at all, or maybe get one person grabbing at him. Like, he's happy to sit back and just wait until he gets the pass that he wants and take a hit if he has to. I guess him being, what is he, like 6'4", 6'5"?
Yeah.
Massive body. He'll obviously be happy to do that, but I mean, he looks interesting to me, and I hope he does well, because he seemed to get a bit angry that he didn't get picked where he wanted to on draft night. So he looks like one of those guys that I like, one of those real arrogant, knows what he wants to do guys. So I really hope he does well.
It's good to see the Redskins too, because they've lacking at quarterback with so many injuries and so on. So it's good to see him go. But I think he's also going to be happy to run out of the pocket. Like, I think we saw that first preseason game. He made an unreal throw in a very small amount of space on the roll, and I think he's got everything. But the player I wanted to make mention of last week was James Washington for the Steelers. I think Steelers are making big changes at the club with a lot of drama that's gone on the last few years. They're really changing that, and that included Antonio Brown leaving at the end of last year to the Raiders. So Steelers are actually looking for their number 2 wide receiver, and I think James Washington put his name in pencil there. You know, there's a few people like Moncrief, Washington, that people are excited for and are contested for the number 2 position, but I think James Washington really planned himself there. 4 receptions, 84 yards and a touchdown. I think he really nailed that on. So he looked really, really good and was making good space off the line and had a good amount of pace on him to get behind the defense. So I think that's really good. I'm not going to go too much more into detail, but I just wanted to make mention that I think he's probably the nailed-on number 2 now, and hopefully he carries it on through the rest of preseason and has a really good showing for the entire season.
That would be good. But by the way you talk, I obviously haven't watched much of the Steelers. I actually haven't watched any, to be brutally honest with you. But the way you talk about him, if he could sort of come in and maybe to a lesser extent run that same role Antonio ran, that could really take the pressure off Juju trying to be everything, if that makes sense. Like, they could sort of use James Washington in the same way they used Antonio, and then still use Juju as Juju, instead of trying
Yeah,
to
I
make
think
Juju like the number one and then he has to do all this other stuff. Like, I think keeping Juju as close to what he was able to be last year would be really, really good for the Steelers. And if James Washington can step up like that, damn, that Steelers team with the way the AFC is this year.
yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think he looks James Washington. I think he actually looks a little too much like Juju, and
Right.
I've been speaking to you about this and everyone else. Like, I'm a Steelers fan, so my heart's in this conversation. But we're really lacking a red zone threat, like someone to actually score the touchdowns. Like,
Yeah.
Juju is a great possession and, big yards. Like, he's usually every game will get like a 40-yard play. So he's really good for that. But I think James Washington looks a little too much like him. But that may not be a bad thing. I just think we're still lacking at that red zone. But James Conner has also come through. So, I think we're going to be relying on him to be that for us.
It'll be interesting to see how the Steelers go to, how they revamp their playbook with Antonio out, whether they rely on their, obviously, like you said, James Conner, their running back, or whether they run a lot more running back and tight end orientated sort of plays in the red zone to see if they can pick those guys out.
Yeah, and I think the stats last season, Juju actually had a lot better stats overall, like yards per carry and overall, rating. He was a lot better without Antonio Brown, so hopefully that continues. But, it just depends how much his number 2 wide receiver, how good he is, whether it's James Washington or Dante Moncrief.
Yeah.
I think it really relies upon that. Otherwise, he's just going to get 2-man marked and he's just going to be shut down every game and we're going to have a real lack of options.
Which would be terrible. That would actually suck because I like Juju. I think he's really, really good. He's really solid, but I don't know if he's the number one guy yet. Just yet. Like, I don't know if he's the guy that can go up and beat those double teams. Maybe. Yet. Bit of a hot take.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he has the double team capability, but not many people do either. Like, we saw Tyreek Hill against the Patriots get shut down in a double team against him, and he made one catch that game that was like something okay. So we're not going to ask him to, be able to take on 2 defenders. Like, we can't really ask anyone to do that, but I think he's going to step up to that number 1 wide receiver position. I think he's there. Like, I think he's just in or just outside the top 10 wide receivers in the league. So I think he definitely has that, but he's only got time to grow too. Like, he's only had 2 seasons in the league now.
Yeah, so this is his 3rd year.
Yeah, so he has so much time to get better, and I think he's already great. So I think it's only a positive look as long as he's not injured.
Yeah.
Touch wood.
Touch wood.
All right, so I think we move on to your team now. There's a continued controversy and more holdouts. We thought we got all the talk out last week with the holdouts in Melvin Gordon and Zeke, but there's more to add.
Señor, por favor. Man, I am so sick of the Cowboys. We are a mess right now. We are a disgrace of a franchise.
So we were discussing last week, and we kind of went through our order. Obviously, Zeke, 2 years out of his contract, was already, he's out of the country, and he's talking about, like, he's going to hold out the entire season, potentially. Like, that's the potential. And we went through our order, restructured, and we're like, okay, Dak's getting paid number 1, then probably Amari, then the defense, then Zeke, and we'll probably trade him off.
Yeah.
But Dak's made that kind of hard now. So inform everyone who doesn't know on the Dak situation, Ethan, what he's asking.
You're really going to make me do this? So,
yeah,
Dak Prescott is a quarterback that's probably worth $20 million. We are
okay, we're lowballing him there, but yeah, continue.
He is worth $20 million.
Yeah, we haven't seen him on his own be able to do well, so maybe you're not wrong.
He's worth 20 to 30. So the Cowboys offered Dak $30 million, and then there was reports come out that he wanted to turn down the $30 million and was looking for something closer to $40 million a year.
Yeah,
which is absolutely monumental for in a sport where the total cap space for a team is $160 million, and you've got 2 other guys who need max contracts too. So Dak asking for $40 million really, it puts us in a predicament because he's asking for a contract that's going to reset the market for QBs. He's asking for a contract that says, like, well, if Dak Prescott's worth $40 million, Tom Brady must be worth $50. Drew Brees must be worth $52. He's looking for that contract that resets the market. And when the TV deal's not coming up for a couple of years and the salary cap's not going to go up for maybe 2 or 3 years yet, I don't think we can afford to pay Dak $40 million. I think we need him at $30 million, and then we need one other guy. And like we said last week, we need Dak, we need Amari, and then we need to look at closing down some of the defense players. But, I mean, my thoughts stay the same with it still, though. I mean, if Dak is the QB that everyone wants, we have to lock him down, and then we have to look at our second options, even if it makes the team weaker locking down Dak. But I seen a report come out this morning that Zeke is apparently in the low 220s, 220 pounds, which is about, 100 kilos-ish?
I'm not too sure, actually, off the top of my head, sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, Zeke's back around the weight of what he was in his rookie year, which was when he was incredible for us, which has really just thrown a whole other spanner in the works, because if Zeke is ready to go and he's back to rookie weight, and he's back to his rookie build when he really tore up the league with his pure package of power and speed, then I'm saying let's ship Dak now. If Zeke's ready to go,
wow.
I mean, I'm like a seesaw. I'm going to change each week depending on who's asking for more money. But I mean, if Dak wants $40 million, he can go get $40 million off the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for all I care, because it'll be Zeke Nation if Zeke's in his low 220. See, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, honestly, this franchise has got me by the throat, and they're about to drop me off a building. Like, I just don't know how to feel about all this. It puts us in such a predicament. And I really think, out of all of this, the one guy that I'm really rooting for is Amari Cooper, who's been trapped on the Raiders for a few years. He's been stuck. So just a little backstory on Amari. He was born in Texas, went to a Texas university, lives for Texas. His family's all in Texas. He's lost a few people in Texas. He feels an emotional connection to Texas. He gets shipped to Oakland on draft night. No one really wants to work for him. Like, no one wants to make his job any easier. And then, so he looks like shit in Oakland. He gets called a bust. He gets called this. He gets shipped off for really a bit more than what he was worth at the time. But other people would say he got undervalued in the trade that the Cowboys got for him. And then he come back and he made us a completely different team. And I feel like if Zeke and Dak keep doing what they're going to do, then Amari's going to be the one to suffer, because there's not going to be enough money to sign him. And that's the guy that I'm really rooting for out of those three, because that's the guy who has changed the team and made us this weapon that could win a Super Bowl if all three of these guys sit down and, decide to put their differences aside for maybe another 2 or 3 years and just work for the team. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, and that's the issue. Like, Zeke's not even in the country. I don't know if he's come back, but I think he's still out of the country. Like, they really need to sit around the table, talk it out, and just go, okay, we've got a few good years where we're not having to pay you huge money. Let's just try and ride it out, and then we'll go from there. But that's never going to happen. I'm still under the opinion Zeke needs to be shipped, but it puts a big ask on when Dak's looking for $40 million. Like, in my eyes, he's probably $32 million area. Like, he's low 30s, and that's being generous.
Yeah.
So I think he's just an idiot. Like, he should have taken the money and ran. Maybe asked for a little bit more, but who knows? Maybe his agent's just trying to get the best money they can for him, which you can't complain with. Like, that's what you expect from your agent, but it just looks bad for him.
It does.
And really does. I agree. Amari's the good guy in that team that, is just a good guy, and you can't really, it's sad to see him suffer, because potentially, the defense is going to get paid whatever's left over in the cap space if Zeke and Dak get paid, and, Amari's come in, changed the team, and might be out the other end probably for relatively bad money, just, because the Cowboys can't keep it together.
Yeah, which is, it's I found this really, I want you to listen to this quote from Jerry Jones about this thing. Okay, Jerry Jones continues to preach patience, and I quote, "Picture if you were the driver of a car and you had a wreck and your hand was almost severed off, but you didn't understand your anatomy. You look down, you're spurting blood, you open the door and run to the woods and either die of bleeding to death or shock. The educated man looks down, knows his anatomy, squeezes, and knows his best chance is to wait for help. That's because he's been there a lot and done that. And so I'm squeezing and waiting for help. That's my lesson for today. End quote. Jerry Jones said that in the middle of a contract controversy. How is this man allowed to run a team?
Yeah. That's an interesting quote for him to come out and say. I don't know. I think it just continues to go and show what a mess is. And, I was praising him last week for what he had to say about, pushing back Zeke because the whole team needs to get paid. But he's now between a rock and a hard place because every cent of cap space they had left, Dak's going, yeah, I'd like that now.
Yeah.
So it's an absolute mess, which I know if I can see a positive side coming out of it, unfortunately for you.
No, I can't. I really can't. And this is the thing. You need either quarterbacks on rookie contracts or those quarterbacks that are on big contracts, but that can carry a team by themselves to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You look at all the last ones. You look at Tom Brady. He can carry a team by himself, I think, or the Patriots at least.
Yep.
Eagles.
Between him and Bill Belichick, easy.
Yep. Eagles had Wentz, and then they had Foles, who was on a cheap contract because he was off the bench. Year before that was the Pats, who played the Falcons. So it was Matt Ryan, who can carry a team by himself, versus Brady. And then who was the year before that? I can't remember, but I guarantee you, again, it was either... a quarterback who was on a rookie contract. Or
was that back to Carolina versus Broncos, or was that the year before?
It was. And you look at that, Peyton Manning and Cam Newton, both guys who can carry a team on their own.
Yep, one able to carry, but the other was that his rookie year for Cam Newton?
I don't think it was. No, I think that was 2 or 3 years, maybe.
I thought it was his rookie year coming. Actually, no, I take it back because he was drafted in 2011, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm very wrong there. But that was his MVP season. So, yeah, two people who are just quality players once again. Peyton Manning, one of the greatest of all time, and Cam Newton in an MVP season.
And Cam Newton would have been on his rookie contract, again. He would have been on his rookie contract.
Yeah.
It was only his 4th year in the league.
Yep. So, I think it's also a very, and this is why I'm saying ship Zeke, because I think it's a very quarterback-driven league now.
Yeah.
It's starting to take away from the running back and going to the quarterback, as most people would expect. But Dak doesn't have that. He can't carry a team like you're saying.
Yeah, he can't. And like we said last week, it just complicates everything again when you need a quarterback. If you're going to pay him that much, you need a quarterback that can carry the team. But like we said with Zeke last week, you can also just find running backs to replace it. So we really are caught in between a rock and a hard place because... we have so many options to do, but none of them are the ideal. Because the ideal is to re-sign all these guys and have enough money for our defense.
Yep, agreed.
And we have alternatives that we can do, but it's is it going to be worth it to ruin all this just for a chance when we don't even know what these guys could do together with a full season? So it's a slippery slope, really. The Cowboys is right now.
Yeah, it's a mess of a franchise, unfortunately, and hopefully it finds some resolve soon. But there's more turmoil and more controversy added on week after week, so you can't see it ending anytime soon either.
I really can't.
All right, so I don't know what you want to do. We can push into our top quarterbacks that we're looking into, or we could go straight into a preview for the week coming up, just for time's sake. What do you think?
We can do top QBs if you want.
Yep, I'm happy either way.
All right, I'm going to wing this a little bit. We're going to make this a sponsored post. The top 15 quarterbacks are provided today by the Fantasy League Brock and I are running. So if you would like to join that, please let us know. Just contact us if you want to join it. We don't care who does. If you've got no NFL experience, if you're really into it, anyone and everyone is welcome. So it'll just be fun. We'll set a date for the draft. This will be if you haven't got into the NFL yet, this is a great way to get into it, really. Fantasy is. You'll learn how to measure up players and learn what's good, who's good. I'd really just go ahead and do it. And we've also chosen to do it on a platform where you can do it all on your phone. So you don't have to worry about, pulling out a laptop that you haven't used in years or, worrying about drafting properly. Yeah, it'll be pretty easy.
Yeah, it's nice and simple this year. So we're on Sleeper Fantasy, sponsor there. But we'll probably release a post this week at some stage, and just, with the code and stuff to join in. But there's 12 available spots, and I think 3 are already taken up. So jump on it pretty quick if you can. But yeah, like Ethan said, it's a good way to keep on top of things and, keep your interest building, and forces you to keep an eye on the NFL if you're looking to get into it. So I think it's really good. And even for anyone who's not too interested, it's just a fun thing we will put together, and it should be fun.
Yep. Just for legal purposes, if anyone from Sleeper app is listening, we're not sponsored by Sleeper. Thank you.
No, might get a quick cut there for that. Whoopsie daisies.
Nah. Top 15. Are we doing QBs or wide receivers?
Yeah, QBs this week. We'll start with the main position that everyone loves in the NFL.
Take it away, my friend.
All right. So, what do we want? We'll go start from the bottom. We'll go 5 at a time from each side.
Yeah.
All right. So, very well on topic. Number 15, I've got Dak Prescott. I think he's just in the top half of the table, but potential to fall. So I've got Dak there, Baker Mayfield at 14, Deshaun Watson 13, Jared Goff 12, Cam Newton 11, and Carson Wentz 10.
Carson Wentz at 10.
Yeah, he's I think the first season that he came in, he was definitely looking like MVP. I don't think anyone can challenge that. He was definitely going for MVP that season before his injury. I think he's one of the most talented quarterbacks that are still on their rookie contract, but he's just injury prone. So
yeah,
that's a number 10 of talent and ability, but how injury prone he is, that could quickly fall too. So yeah, I've got him just scraping in the top 10.
I like that. I mean, yeah, Wentz is good. Wentz is really solid. He's a guy who's shown that he can get out of the pocket and make a move if he needs to, but he can also stand back and throw a laser all day. So
yeah, absolutely. I think he's got everything. So I think he's there. And then, just to quickly make mention of each, Cam Newton, I think is a great quarterback, but once again, he's coming off the back of an injury, and he just puts his body on the line too much. He's a big guy, but he's just going to keep taking hits. Then I've got Jared Goff, 12. I think he's full of talent. He's going to be brilliant behind Sean McVay. Where hopefully Rams supporters are hoping that it's going to be the new Belichick and Brady, but I think a lot of people are very negative about him after the Super Bowl, but I think he's still, one of the best in the league.
And he's still relatively young too.
Exactly.
His third or fourth year he was in the same draft as Wentz actually.
Yeah, he went number 1 and Wentz went number 2. So yeah, for me, I've got 12, 13, 14 are all rookie contracts still in Jared Goff, Deshaun Watson, and Baker Mayfield. Watson, I think, is great. He can run it, he can throw a laser, and obviously he's got Hopkins as a great receiver, but I think he's just been lacking in the O-line, but Texans made some good signings there in the draft. And then Baker at 14, I think he is extremely talented, but still has a lot to prove.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And what have you got from 10 to 15?
10 to 15, I have got... At number 15, actually, I have Wentz.
Yep.
And then I got Baker at the same position. And then I've actually got... I didn't plan for this. Shit.
All right, well, I don't know if you want. I can keep running through mine if you'd like, and you can just comment on it, or...
Yeah, we'll do that.
All right. Well, you can just tell me where you think I'm wrong.
All right.
And we'll go into a bit more detail with it. Number 9, I've got Matty Ice Ryan. I think he's a great quarterback, but I think he's really come to his own with Julio, and I think he actually relies on Julio a little bit too much. But he's got a great wide receiving core, and he'll throw great lasers. Number 8, I've got Big Ben.
Oh wow, number 8.
Yep, 7, Phillip Rivers, 6, Andrew Luck, and number 5, Russell Wilson.
Yeah, wow.
I'm just going to put it out there. My top 5, I think, is easily interchangeable.
Okay.
But that's where I'm sitting for the time being. So any comments on that?
I'm just surprised that you've got Big Ben at 8, considering he is your franchise's quarterback. Not to say that there's any... I'm surprised you got Andrew Luck over Big Ben, to be honest. Just on...
Okay.
Just for in the same way that we're both obviously a bit skeptical on Wentz and Cam too with his injury, is that I just thought that Andrew Luck with all his injuries might have been a bit lower, but he's shown that he can be a quarterback that is in that top 10, and so is Big Ben. So I guess it's tough to rank players really, like. Yeah,
especially season in, season out. There's big changes. So, just for me explaining myself there, I think Andrew Luck, he had a big streak. I can't even remember how many games it was in a row. but he was close to a record, or maybe hit a record of consecutive games with 3 passing touchdowns, which I think was excellent. And I think he is on the back of, I think he might have a little calf or ankle strain at the moment. So they're a bit worried at him. But like you said, he's a bit injury prone. But I think he's more developed, and we know what to expect from him compared to Wentz. So that's why I've got him so high. And yeah, probably do potentially have him a little bit higher, but I like him, and he's still young and upcoming, and I think he's going to do great things for the Colts franchise.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then Big Ben, I think he's on a downfall at the moment, but I think he's had a lot of drama surrounding him, and all the pressure's been falling on him, and everything the franchise has been doing wrong is being blamed on him. So I think he's definitely still a top 10, but I think he's come back a little bit in the last few years. And I think this year, if he really shows how good he is without Antonio Brown, he could definitely make a big jump there. And number 7, Phillip Rivers. I think he's just reliable week in, week out. Obviously, he's a bit unlucky with the division he's in, and then obviously in the playoffs last season against the Pats, he didn't really come out to play. But I think he's just Mr. Reliable.
Yeah, he is.
He's a good player. He's not the best. I don't think he's in that top 5 talks, but he's easily top 10, and I think his position's pretty set.
I think it is.
And then I'll just run through the top 5 because I think there'll be a couple talking points here. Number 5, like I said, I have Russell Wilson, which pains me to put him a little bit that low. Number 4, I've got Drew Brees. Number 3, Aaron Rodgers. Number 2, and this is where I reckon you're going to catch me, I've got number 2, Patty Mahomes, and number 1, Tom Brady.
Oh, in all honesty, surprisingly, I don't actually see any problems with that top 5 in that ranking.
Okay.
I mean, in all honesty, I rank Brady, Mahomes, Breeze. I rank all 5 of those guys that you've got on the same level.
Yeah.
They can all take over a game. They can all lead a team. Some of them have had the platform to be able to do this, or the support cast to be able to do this the past couple of years, or at least last season anyway.
Yep.
And then some have just had where that support cast and stuff picks up compared to the others. They've obviously shone brighter, but I think all 5 of those guys are really great talents, and I think that's a really well-rounded top 5. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I've just, to go through it again, Tom Brady, I think there's no doubts about it. Some people still disagree, but I think he's the greatest of all time. And as much as a lot of people don't see him as the most talented anymore, I think if you wanted a quarterback to play for you, it's Tom Brady. And, we saw that in the playoffs this year, the way he, I wouldn't say dominated, but I think he was so much more clinical than Patty Mahomes. And it's Patty Mahomes' second year. I think he's probably the most talented quarterback in the league now. But we also only have 1 year of evidence to go off. So that's a big call to be making as well. Aaron Rodgers. So I think Patty Mahomes is the most talented, just had to go in number 2. And after an MVP season, it's hard to put him much lower than that. Aaron Rodgers is also one of the most talented players and probably one of the best pocket passers we've ever seen. But he's had a couple injuries, and he, like you were talking about platform, he hasn't had that platform. But the last few years, they've been putting in work for him to get that. And, receiver, he's got Devontae Adams there, which is one of the best receivers in the league. And his defense is finally starting to pick up with all the rookies coming in. So I think we could see big things from him, and even potentially take out the division, which might be a bit of a call, but I could see that happening. And then Drew Brees is another just Mr. Reliable. He's so good. He's turned that West Coast playing style into something special, and he's unbelievable. And I don't think it matters who he has there. And Russell Wilson, I think, once again, going off that platform a few years ago when they went back-to-back Super Bowls and only won one and obviously lost against the Pats in the next, but he had one of the best defenses seen, especially in the last few years, the best defense. So he had that platform to go off the back of, but now I think he's a man on his own. He's really lacking everywhere, and slowly the Legion of Boom have just dropped off one by one, which was the nickname of the defense. But he's still carrying that team to playoffs when they don't deserve to be there. That's all on the back of him. And, also just to make a big call for him too, overall the best passer ratings, which is essentially, for anyone who doesn't know, it's just the rating that every passer gets at the end of the game, like any quarterback gets at the end of the game, out of 158.3, which is off the back of touchdowns, yards per attempt, and things like that, completions and interceptions. And he's actually, out of those kind of stats, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and Russell Wilson are all switched between 1, 2, and 3
Wow.
ever, in history. So I think Russell Wilson, just because of the team, gets a little bit overlooked, but I think he's still one of the best quarterbacks running around, even with a poor team.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've just said there, particularly particularly that stuff about Russell Wilson. He's so solid, and he has been now carrying a team. Like, he had the opportunity to show what he could do when he had a really good team around him, and now he's sort of come into his own, and he's carrying this Seattle team that is really, really sorry. It's been a sorry team for the past couple of years. It's stuck, so.
Yeah, and I think, obviously, he's now the highest paid player in the league, which is more than deserved. I think they haven't got a team that they had to pay in the first place, but, he's definitely deserved of that contract, $40 million a year he's on, and compared to Dak, actually deserves it.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong there.
Yes, so that finished off the top 15. We might get maybe a post or something going up when Ethan puts in his top 15. We might put that up just for anyone eager to know, and obviously any feedback on that.
Well, in all honesty, I might actually just adopt your top 15 list, because I actually really agree with all your rankings. Like, I only think I'd maybe drop Wentz a bit, maybe put Deshaun Watson up a bit, but your top 5 is pretty much correct. Well, in my opinion anyway. And then, I just reckon everyone else is at the right position right now, and how they've been in the past. I think it's really good. I think your take on Aaron Rodgers and the fact that he could win the division, I don't think that's a hot take. I think that is. And I think a lot of other people are saying that NFC North is going to be one of the most highly contested divisions for the first time in a long time, with the Bears and the Packers and the Lions in there too, who might surprise a few people.
The Vikings there as well, yeah. I think I only say it's a bit of a hot take and a bit of a call just because everyone who's a supporter of NFL is in love with Chicago Bears. They've got the best defense in the league. I don't think anyone can question that. They're on a league of their own there, but I think everyone's just too far in love with it. And for example, Mitch Trubisky, their quarterback, doesn't make the top 15 in my opinion. He's a bottom half of the league. He's close to the middle of the pack, but I don't think he has that capability, and I think they're going to have downfall in the offense.
Yeah, I really think that too. And that's the thing, that like we said last week with the defense, this is where winning a Super Bowl is such a stroke of luck, because you either build a really good defense or you draft a really good defense, and then you hit it with a really nice rookie QB, and you get a solid supporting cast in your offense with good running backs and good wide receivers. Then it's tough to get that all to line up, and we're seeing that now with the Bears. I really think and not to shit on Trubisky, because he is a solid player and he will develop into probably a better QB than he is now. But
once again, he only came out of the draft the same time as Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. So he's still got so much time to develop. He's still on his rookie contract. I think he just misses that wide receiver corps, in my opinion.
Yeah, he does.
I look at their wide receivers and go, they're not even good quality wide receivers. They're pretty average, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think we can only wait and see for the season ahead. So I think that rounds out what we're talking about. I think we just wanted to go into a couple previews for this week of a couple big games to watch out for. I think the league, it's looking pretty quiet. I think everyone's pretty set in positions, and we're going to see it finish out. There's only a few rounds left. There's only 4 rounds, including this week. I think the only interesting games to keep an eye on are the Broncos-Panthers game, which is on while we're recording, and Broncos are currently winning 24-12. So I think we're actually going to surprisingly see Brisbane potentially solidify themselves in the top 8, which I didn't think was going to happen.
Neither did I.
But it's still pretty tight there with Cronulla and Tigers right behind, and even Warriors and Newcastle aren't out of the chase yet. So, but a good performance from the Broncos. I haven't watched the game, but hopefully they are performing well. And then I think the only other big one is the Melbourne-Canberra game. I think backing up after last week, they're solidified in the top 4 pretty much.
Is that in Melbourne or is it in Canberra? Sorry.
It's at Amy Park in Melbourne.
Wow.
So
That's a big
it
test for
could.
Canberra.
And the thing is too, like if they lose that game, they could potentially be knocked out of the top four. Actually, Manly have crept in after their win last night, so it's going to be interesting. And in my eyes, I just don't think Canberra has it, but we can only wait and see too. But definitely a game everyone to keep their eyes on for.
Yes, I agree. It will be. I'll be watching that game. That'll be a bloody good game.
Yeah. EPL this week, there's not really too much going on. Man City versus Tottenham's obviously a big game. Probably the game of the week, nice to watch out for. And then Wolverhampton versus Manchester. I think that's really going to see where the Wolves are at this season. In my opinion, they're coming off the back of a Europa game throughout the week. And obviously after a 0-0 draw last week against Leicester, I think it's going to be interesting to see if they can continue their streak that they had going last season. So there's a few good games to watch out. Therefore, also to mention the Chelsea-Leicester, that'll be interesting. And, for the supporters of Liverpool, hopefully a bit of a whitewash against Southampton, I think we can all predict.
Yeah, that'll be a couple of good matchups. I really hope the Wolves win. That would be sick, but I doubt it's going to happen.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And then obviously, I think for both of us, the Bledisloe this weekend, that's going to be a bigger game.
Boys.
And come on Australia. But I think it's really going to set the scene for potentially into the World Cup as far as that. Like if we can back up this game, we can actually, it's actually going to be exciting.
Just one thing I will say about the Bledisloe game, obviously it not having occurred before we release this. If we win this game, I'm worried about the pressure it puts on the boys going into the World Cup. If we win the Bledisloe and we beat New Zealand at Eden Park, it puts a lot of pressure on us for the World Cup. And I think that that's good because I think we could stand up to it. But I'm also a bit worried longer term because we have a lot of key players in the Wallabies that have stood up this year that are leaving after the end of, and I'll probably go into that in more detail as we gear up for the World Cup and do a couple of previews on the pod in coming weeks. But I really hope we win, but I'm just worried for what the implications could be off the footy park. Because I know that if we beat the All Blacks tomorrow, I know that we're more than ready to take it to everyone at the World Cup. It'll just, like we said, it'll just be whether we stand up or whether we do what we usually do and use the same tactics because it worked once and get the shit beat out of us for the next 4 games.
Yep. But I think it's a battle of two negatives. I think if we lose this game, it's nothing but the old school Australia who can't put it together. And if we win, we're filled with pressure. So I think being filled with pressure for the World Cup is probably the better of 2 bad options, essentially.
Yeah. In saying that, though, I mean, last World Cup we did win the rugby championship before going over, and then beat New Zealand in Sydney, but then lost to them in Eden Park, and then because it's a tie, they get to hold the Bledisloe Cup again. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe Checker can run the. I think Checker's obviously with the performance he got out last week. I think he's definitely geared himself to run a team that's running off negatives and running off doubt. I think that's the way he operates and running off low expectations. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, we can only see tomorrow night, but up with the boys. Hopefully, we can see a good result.
Yes, that would be awesome.
All right, I think it's time to wrap it up. If you'd like, Ethan.
I think it is. Oh, and just one thing. With the NFL, obviously now 3 weeks away, but closing down to 2. I think starting next week we will do a AFC or NFC. We haven't decided which conference yet. We'll do a preview for the teams that we think. How the teams will go for the NFL season, and then obviously do the opposing conference the week after, gearing up for the season. So keep an eye out for that. That should be pretty interesting. I'm keen to break down a couple of the teams, see how they'll do, and put in some predictions. Might even put some money on the line.
Ooh, getting interesting there. But once again, thank you for everyone who's obviously given feedback and is tuning in. Hopefully, we continue to see that support and we can continue to keep you guys interested here. But yeah, once again, just thank you. And obviously, like we said at the start of the podcast, for you guys who want to get on at some stage, we've made mention of what we'd like. We just want to get established. We have a bit of a figure in our head of where we'd like to hit before having guests on, but we're completely open to the idea and we're glad you guys are all for it.
Yeah, exactly. And thank you so much for the support. So if we could keep that going, that'd be awesome. And obviously feedback too.
Yes, greatly appreciated.
So thank you very much, everyone.